I am going to demonstrate how I got the Unreal Engine 4 voice capturing working, not only to play back in the game so that you could hear yourself, but also how to extract the volume out of the raw data from the voice capturing system. This is just a prototype. I literally got it working in about 3 days and have been doing a lot of tests around it. I'm not sure if it's fully optimized or if there may be errors, but I think it's close enough to demonstrate, and maybe the community can help fill out any gaps. But anyway, so I'll dive right into it. The first thing that we want to do is turn on voice support within UE4. To do that, you want to edit your project.build.cs and add to the dependency modules the online subsystem, the online subsystem utils, and the voice modules. Second part you want to do is go into the config folder and edit the default engine.ini and add the online subsystem and voice directives. I've got my online subsystem set to null. I have a property called bHasVoiceEnabled equals true, and under the voice section I have beEnabled equals true. There's additional settings that you can find online if you do a quick Google search. Shouldn't take too long to figure out, but there's stuff in there for push-to-talk support and other items like that. You can look that up yourselves if you need more information on how to do that. So diving right into the code, I've got my voice stuff wired into my player character. I don't know if this is the right place for it, but this is where I wrote the code to do some testing. The headers that you're interested in are voice.h, online subsystem utils.h, and sound/soundwaveprocedural.h. Got some properties down here at the bottom. The main thing for volume that we're going to set to and use this on our UI later is voice capture volume. This gets set at the end of the process. I have a couple of flags. I don't think this one is used, but a flag to determine when voice data is being captured, when to play it back in an audio component so that you can hear yourself. I have a couple of timers. I don't think this one is used right now. The T-shared pointer, voice capture, that's actually used for the UE4 voice capturing API that we'll see later. The U sound wave procedural, we'll get to that, and the audio component, which is actually what's used to play back your voice in the game. The voice capture buffer is a T array of UN8 that we're going to need later for processing the raw data from the voice capturing system. Voice capture tick is a method I use on player character tick for actually processing the voice capture and the raw data. We'll get to that in a minute. And play voice capture is actually what plays the audio components so that you can hear yourself. We'll go into the player character implementation, go up to the constructor, get to the section where the voice capturing test code is written. This you've probably seen in some of the online posts on what to do. You want to just replicate this code. It starts the voice capturing system. You want to set up your audio component and your sound wave procedural component. Set up the attachment to the root scene component that you're working with. In this case, it's the root component of my player character. These two flags, I'm not sure if they need to be set, but I've got them in here. I can mess with them later. I did have a problem with the pitch of my voice. Setting it to 1 or leaving it to the default, my voice sounded really high for some reason, like I was inhaling helium. Settled on 0.85. My voice sounded normal at that point. I don't know why. Needs more research. Volume multiplier I set to 5. For some reason, my volume transmission in UE4 was much lower than it was in my operating system. I have no idea why. Maybe it's a setting somewhere in my configs. Needs more research. Then set up the sound wave procedural component. You want a sample rate of that, 1 channel. You want the duration set to this constant. You want the sound group set to this constant. You want B looping set to false. You want B procedural set to true. And the same issue with pitch and volume. I had to do the same thing on that component. So once those are all set up, down here in my begin play, I don't know if this is the right place for it, but I threw in a timer. Starts a looping timer that points to play voice capture at 0.4 seconds. You can tweak this number if you want, but this is what plays the audio component based off the sample data that we're going to get in the tick while doing voice capturing. Alright, so we'll go down to our voice capture tick is called within the player character tick method. So every tick we're going to attempt to voice capture and pull the data out of the voice capturing system. I'm going to go ahead and go to that method. Now, this code is based off a really helpful article that a gentleman published back in, I think it was 2015. I'll bring that up for you. It's a little bit out of date. Like the buffer, I think, doesn't work. Some of the mem sets aren't the right way to do things, and you know, I tried using this code one-to-one and I got no data out of it, so I had to tweak it a little bit to get it to actually work. I guess it was written on an older engine. So anyway, what we do is we set up some properties, and I'll just leave this up on the screen, hit pause, look it over, see what you think. We want to call the voice capturing system, get the voice capture state, some stuff we're doing with the bytes. We want to reset the buffer every time. The capture state is okay, and we do have voice capture bytes available. We want to process the data. Look over that stuff. Should make sense, should be straightforward. We want to call voice capture get voice data. This drop it into the buffer that we've set up. Now this code right here actually extracts that raw data and calculates the volume. The final output is here, and voice capture volume is a property that we set on our character, which we use in our UI later. The math behind this I found by looking around at various PCM raw data processing, PCM wave data processing in C++, and eventually figured out a way to get the math to work right. This number right here boosts the final volume high enough because I actually have a voice meter animation that plays on my UI, and I wanted the numbers to be a little bit higher so that it would conform to my UI. This might be something I need to tweak, or if you have recommendations on other ways of doing it, that would be great to know. So that's how you get the volume. Then the next step is to call the sound wave procedural component and cue the audio from the voice capture buffer. Then from there we want to set our audio component. We want to call the audio component set sound method and pass in the sound wave procedural property that we've set up. What this does is it redirects the sample data from the voice capturing system into the audio component. And then the last thing we do is we set our flag to the play voice capture flag to true, so that our timer, while it runs, can look at this flag to determine whether or not it should play the audio component. And here's that method in the timer. This probably needs to change a little bit. I should be checking here to see if it's already playing or not. And if it is, then fade out. Otherwise, just return. But anyway, I can fix that later. And so if it's don't play, fade out. If it is playing, just exit and wait until it's done. Otherwise, play the audio component. So every 0.4 seconds, you should hear your voice in the game while you're talking. So that covers the majority of the code. Let's go ahead and run the game and demonstrate how it's working. So I should be able to hear myself talking, which is really hard to do. And there is a slight delay because of the 0.4 second timer. So yeah, I can hear myself. That's great. I'm going to go into my UI, go into the audio settings here, and there's my microphone test meter. And I'm going to say a few things here pretty loud to test it. Ah. Ah. Gonna get closer. Really loud now. Loud as it can go. And there you go. I hope this has been helpful. Thanks for your time.